Okay, so this will be our lesson 3, no, for the information assurance and security. So if you have a questions, do not hesitate to post your questions in our chat box. Hey everyone, so our topic for today is about the information system security, the CIA triad. The concept of the CIA triad formed over time and does not have a single creator. Confidentiality may have first been proposed as early as 1976 in a study by the U.S. Air Force. Likewise, the concept of integrity was exposed in 1987 paper entitled A Comparison of Commercial and Military Computer Security Policies, written by David Clark and David Wilson. Actually, the paper recognized that commercial computing had a need for accounting records and data correctness. So even though it is not easy to find an initial source, the concept of availability became more widespread 1 year later in 1988. So by 1998, people saw the three concepts together as the CIA triad. So this will be the intended learning outcomes. Upon successful completion of this chapter, you will be able to identify the information security triad, identify and understand the high-level concepts surrounding information security tools, and secure yourself digitally. We have part 1 and part 2 of this presentation. So of course, computers or digital devices are becoming integral to conducting business, especially right now, of course, which also makes them a target of attack. So I also agree with that. Devices need to be secured always, no? Because for example, even our cell phone, our computer, laptop must be secured. Networks that computers and devices use should also be secured. Yes, of course. Now, the CIA triad, okay, so confidentiality, integrity, and availability, or also known as CIA triad. CIA Triad is a model designed to guide policies for information security within an organization. The model is also sometimes referred to as the AIC Triad: availability, integrity, and confidentiality. To avoid confusion with the Central Intelligence Agency, although elements of the triad are three of the most foundational and crucial cybersecurity needs, experts believe the CIA triad needs an upgrade to stay effective. In this discussion, confidentiality is a set of rules that limits access to information's integrity in the assurance and that the information is trustworthy and accurate, and availability is a guarantee of reliable access to the information by authorized people. So, why the CIA triad is important? With each letter representing a foundational principle in cybersecurity, the importance of the CIA triad security model speaks for itself. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability together are considered the three most important concepts with information security. Considering these three principles together within the framework of the triad can help guide the development of security policies or for organizations when evaluating needs and use cases for potential new products and technologies. And the triad helps organizations ask focused questions about how value is being provided in case in those three key areas. Thinking of the CIA triad's three concepts together as an interconnected system rather than as independent concepts can help organizations understand the relationship between the three. We have various management practices technologies that comprise the Triad, the CIA Triad. While many CIA Triad cybersecurity strategies implement those technologies in practices, and this list is by no means exhausted. Okay, so in addition to the CIA Triad's example, no? So to understand how the CIA Triad works in practice, we need also to consider some additional example like for a bank or ATM bank, no? Which can offer users access to bank balances and other informations in ATM has tools that covers all three principles of the triad. Again, for ATM, it provides confidentiality by requiring two-factor authentication, both a physical card and a PIN code, before allowing to access. That is for confidentiality. Then for the ATM and bank software enforce data integrity by ensuring that any transfer or withdrawals made via the machine are reflected in the accounting for the user's bank account. That is for integrity. And for the availability, the machine provides availability because it's in public place and is accessible even with the bank branch is closed. But there's more to the three principles than just what's on the surface. I will discuss some examples of how they operate in everyday IT environments. The CIA Triad confidentiality examples. Much of what lay people think of as cybersecurity, essentially anything that restricts access to data, falls under the rubric of confidentiality. And this includes InfoSec, two big A's. Number one, authentication, which encompasses process that allow system to determine if a user is who they say they are. This include passwords and the panoply of techniques available for establishing identity, like biometrics, security tokens, cryptographic keys, and the like. Another big ace is authorization, which determine who has the right to access which data. Just because a system knows who you are, it doesn't necessarily open all its data for your perusal. One of the most important ways to enforce confidentiality is establishing need-to-know mechanism for data access. That way, users whose account have been hacked or who have gone rogue can compromise sensitive data. Most operating systems enforce confidentiality in the sense by having many files only accessible by their creators or an administrator, for instance. Public key cryptography. It is a widespread infrastructure that enforces both as by authenticating that you are who you say you are via cryptographic keys. You establish your right to participate in the encrypted conversation. Confidentiality can also be enforced by a non-technical means, for instance, keeping hard copy data behind lock and key can keep it confidential, so can air gapping computers in fighting against social engineering attempts. A loss of confidentiality is defined as data being seen by someone who shouldn't have seen it. Big data breaches like the Marriott hack are prime high profile example of loss of confidentiality. So, how about the CIA Triad integrity examples? The techniques for maintaining data integrity can span what many would consider disparate disciplines. For instance, many of the methods for protecting confidentiality also enforce data integrity. You can't maliciously alter data that you can't access after all. So we also mentioned the data access rules enforced by most operating systems in some cases. File can be read by certain users but not edited, which can help maintain data integrity along with availability. But there are other ways data integrity can be lost that go beyond malicious attackers attempting to delete or alter it. For instance, corruption seeps into data in ordinary RAM as a result of interaction with cosmic rays much more regularly than you think. That's at the exotic end of the spectrum, but any techniques designed to protect the physical integrity of storage media can also protect the virtual integrity of data. Many of the ways that you would defend against breaches of integrity are meant to help you detect when data has changed, like data checksums, or restore it to a known good taste, like conducting frequent and meticulous backup. Breaches of integrity are somewhat less common or obvious than violation of the other two principles, but could include, for instance, altering business data to affect decision-making, or hacking into a financial system to briefly inflate the value of a stock or bank account and then siphoning off the excess. A simpler and more common example of an attack on data integrity would be a defacement attack, in which hackers alters a website's HTML to vandalize it for fun or ideological reasons. How about the CIA Triad availability examples? Maintaining availability often falls on the shoulders of departments not strongly associated with cybersecurity. The best way to ensure that your data is available is to keep all your system up and running and make sure that they're able to handle expected network loads. This entails keeping hardware up to date, monitoring bandwidth usage, and providing failover and disaster recovery capacity if systems go down. Techniques around this principle involving figuring out how to balance the availability against the other two concerns in the triad. Returning to the file permission built into every operating system. The idea of files that can be read but not edited by certain users represent a way to balance competing needs. The data be available to many users despite our need to protect its integrity. The classic example of a loss of availability to a malicious actor is a denial of service. In some ways, this is the most brute force act of cyber aggregation out there. You're not altering your victim's data or sneaking a peek of information you shouldn't have. You're just overwhelming them with traffic so they can keep their website up. But the denial of service attacks are very damaging, and that illustrates why availability belongs in the triad. The CIA Triad implementation. The CIA Triad should guide you as your organization writes and implement its overall security policies and frameworks. We need to remember that implementing the Triad isn't a matter of buying certain tools. The Triad is a way of thinking, planning, and perhaps most importantly, setting the priorities. Industry standard cybersecurity frameworks like the ones from NIST, no, which focus actually a lot on integrity, are informed by the ideas behind the CIA Triad, through each has its own particular emphasis. Beyond the Triad, no, the Parkerian Hexad and more, the CIA Triad is important, but it isn't wholly writ. And there are plenty of InfoSec experts who will tell you it doesn't cover everything. As we mentioned, in 1998, Don Parker proposed a six-sided model that was later dubbed the Parkerian Hexad, which is built on the following principles: the confidentiality, position of control, integrity, authenticity, availability, and utility. It's somewhat open to questions whether the extra 3 points really press into new territory. Utility and possession could be lumped under availability, for instance, but it's worth nothing as an alternative model. A financial important principle of information security that doesn't fit neatly into the CIA triad is non-repudiation, which essentially means that someone cannot falsely deny that they created, altered, observed, or transmitted data. This is crucial in legal context when, for instance, someone might need to prove that a signature is accurate or that a message was sent by the person whose name is on it. The CIA triad isn't a be-all and end-all, but it's a valuable tool for planning your infosec or in strategy. The confidentiality. Sometimes safeguarding data confidentiality involves special training for those privy to sensitive documents. Training can help familiarize authorized people with risk factors and how to guard against them. Further aspect of training may include strong passwords and password-related best practices and information about social engineering methods to prevent users from bending data handling rules with good intention and potentially disastrous result. A good example of methods used to ensure confidentiality is requiring an account number or routing number when banking online. Data encryption is another common method of ensuring confidentiality. Users' IDs and passwords constitute a standard procedure. Two-factor authentication or 2FA is becoming the norm. Other options include biometric verification and security tokens, DFOBs or soft tokens. In addition, users can take precautions to minimize the number of places where information appears and the number of times it is actually transmitted to complete a required transaction. Extra measures might be taken in the case of extremely sensitive documents, such as storing only on air-gapped computers, disconnected storage devices, or for highly sensitive information in a hard copy form only. The integrity. This measure include file permissions and user access controls. Version control may be used to prevent erroneous changes or accidental deletion by authorized users from becoming a problem. In addition, organization must put in some means to detect any changes in data that might occur as a result of non-human cause, events such as an electromagnetic pulse or server crash. Data might include checksums, even cryptographic checksums, for verification of integrity. Backups or redundancies must be available to restore the affected data to its correct state. Furthermore, digital signatures can be used to provide effective non-repudiation measures, meaning evidence of logins, measure sent, electric document viewing, sending, and sending cannot be denied. Availability. This is best ensured by rigorously maintaining all hardware, performing hardware repairs immediately when needed, and maintaining a properly functioning operating system environment that is free of software conflicts. It is also important to keep current with all necessary system upgrades, providing adequate communication bandwidth, and preventing the occurrence of bottlenecks are equally important tactics. Redundancy, failover, RAID, even high availability clusters can mitigate serious consequences when hardware issues do occur. The past and adapted disaster recovery is essential for the worst case scenarios. That capacity relies on the existence of a comprehensive DR plan. Safeguards against data loss or interruption in connection must include unpredictable events such as natural disaster and fire. And to prevent data loss from such occurrence, a backup copy may be stored in a geographically isolated location, perhaps even in a fireproof, waterproof safe. Extra security equipment or software such as firewalls and proxy servers can be guarded against downtime and unreachable data blocked by malicious denial of service attacks and network intrusions. Special challenges for the CIA Triad. Big data poses challenges to the CIA paradigm because of the sheer volume of information that organizations need safeguarded, the multiplicity of sources that data comes from, the variety of formats in which it exists. Duplicate data sets and disaster recovery plans can multiply the already high cost. Furthermore, because the main concern of big data is collecting and making some kind of useful interpretation of all this information, responsible data oversight is often lacking. Whistleblower Edward Snowden brought that problem to the public forum when he reported on the National Security Agency's collection of massive volumes of American citizens' personal data. The Internet of Things privacy. You need to protect the information of individual from exposure is an IoT environment, and almost any physical or logical entity or object can be given a unique identifier in the ability to communicate autonomously over the internet or a similar network. The data transmitted by a given endpoint might not cause any privacy issues on its own. However, when even fragmented data from multiple endpoints is gathered, collated, and analyzed, it can yield sensitive information. The Internet of Things security. It is also challenging because IoT consists of so many Internet-enabled devices other than computers, which often go unpatched and are often configured with default or weak password. Unless adequately protected, IoT could be used as a separate attack vector or part of the thing boot. As more and more products are developed with the capacity to be networked, it's important to routinely consider security in product development. The best practices for implementing the CIA Triad. In implementing the CIA Triad, an organization should follow a general set of best practices. And of course, some best practices divided by each the three subjects include the confidentiality. Okay, so data should be handled based on the organizational required privacy. Data should be encrypted using 2FA. Keep access control list and other file permission up to date. For integrity, ensure employees are knowledgeable about compliance and regulatory requirements to minimize human error. Always use backup and recovery software. We need to ensure integrity. We need to use version control, access control, security control, data logs, and checksums. For the availability, use preventive measures such as redundancy, failover, and RAID. Ensure systems and applications stay updated. We need to use network or server monitoring systems. And we need to ensure a data recovery and business continuity plan is in place in case of data loss. So this will be our references. Thank you and see you with our lesson 3 part 2. Good luck everyone. Good day. So this will be the part 2 of our lesson 3. So what is information security? Okay. So information security, often referred to as InfoSec, refers to the processes and tools designed and deployed to protect sensitive business information from modification, disruption, distraction, and inspection. So, what is the difference between cybersecurity and information security? The information security in cybersecurity are often confused, right? So, InfoSec is a crucial part of cybersecurity, but it refers exclusively to the processes designed for data security. On the other hand, or on the other hand, cybersecurity is a more general term that includes InfoSec. So, what is an information security management system? An ISMS is a set of guidelines and processes created to help organizations in a data breach scenario. So by having a formal set of guidelines, businesses can minimize risk and can ensure work continuity in case of a staff change. ISO 27001 is a well-known specification for a company ISMS or Information Security Management System. What is the General Data Protection Regulation? Actually, here in the Philippines, we have a Data Privacy Commission. But in other countries, for example, in Europe, no, in 2016, the European Parliament and Council agreed on the General Data Protection Regulations in the spring of 2018, and the GDPR began requiring companies to provide data breach notification, appoint a data protection officer, require user consent for data processing, and anonymize data privacy. All companies operating within the EU must comply with these standards. So in the Philippines, of course, we are required and obliged to, of course, comply with the Data Privacy Commission's requirement. So, what are the information security tools? So we have authentication, access control, encryption, passwords, backup, firewalls, virtual private networks or VPN, physical security, and security policies. So authentication, when we say authentication, of course, person accessing the information is who they say they are. So we need to have a factors of identification. Something you know or something you know, user ID and password, something you have, the key or card, something you are, or the physical characteristics. A combination of at least two factors is recommended. The access control. Once authenticated, only provide access to information necessary to perform their job duties to read, modify, add, or delete information by access control list or by role-based access control. So even when we are creating our own system, we must observe the access control. No? So for example, we have the super admin, no, we have the admin account, we have the user's account, and so on. Encryption. An algorithm encodes or scrambles information during transmission or storage, decoded or unscrambled by only authorized individuals to read it. So how is this done? So both parties agreed on the encryption method using keys. So we have symmetric key and we have a public key. Passwords, we are all familiar with password, a single factor authentication. So user ID password is the easiest to break. Again, is the easiest way to break. Okay? Password policy ensure that the risk is minimized by requiring, take note of it. I just want to reiterate, no, one by one. A certain length to make it harder to guess. Contain certain characters, changing password regularly, and do not a password to be reused. Okay? So for example, last month you use cute, then another month you use uh, handsome, then the other month you replace your password again as cute, no? See, it is not advisable. Employees do not share their password, of course. That's why it is termed password, right? So notifying the security department if they feel their password had been compromised. A yearly confirmation from employees that they understand their responsibility. For the backup, Important information should be backed up and stored in a separate location. A good backup plan requires and complementary practices. So we have some examples in details related to backup. For firewalls, it can be a piece of hardware and or software. So inspect and stop packets of information that don't apply to a strict set of rules, either inbound or outbound. Hardware, firewalls are connected to the network. Then software firewalls run on the operating system and intercept packets as they arrive to a computer. It can implement multiple firewalls to allow segments of the network to be partially secured to contact business and the IDS. Watch for specific types of activities to alert security personnel of a potential network attack. For the VPN, some systems can be made private using an internal network to limit access to them. VPN allow users to remotely access this system over a public network like the internet. And the CPP students have this ability for exchange services from your Outlook client, mapping drive or mounting of a file share, and instruction to establish a VPN connection can be also available in this link. The physical security. We must protect the actual equipment, our hardware, and our network components. We need to the organizations need to identify assets that need to be physically secured, like lock doors, physical intrusion detection, secured equipment, environmental monitoring, and employee training must be done regularly. Security policies. Starting point in developing an overall security plan. Formal, brief, and high-level statement issued by your senior management. So, guidelines for employee, embraces general beliefs, goals, objectives, and acceptable procedures, include company resource if employees violate the policy. Security policies focus on confidentiality, integrity, and the availability, or the CIA. Bring your own device, policies for mobile devices, and difficult to balance the need for security and user needs. For personal information security, simple steps that individual can take to be more secure. As individual, you need to keep your software up to date. Install antivirus software. Use public networks carefully, of course. Back up your data either once a week or twice a month or thrice a month. Secure your accounts with two-factor authentication. So make your passwords long, unique, and strong, and be suspicious of strange links and attachment. So in summary of this discussion, so we identified the information security triad, the CIA. We identified and understand the high-level concepts surrounding information security tools and on how to secure yourself digitally. So this will be our references. Thank you and good morning once again. Okay, so when it comes to CIA, no, the confidentiality, integrity, and availability or the CIA triad. So Again, the CIA triad of confidentiality, integrity, and availability is considered the core underpinning of information security. So every security control and every security vulnerability can be viewed in light of one or more of the said concepts, no? For a security program to be considered comprehensive and complete, it must adequately address the entire CIA triad. So again, confidentiality discuss about the data, objects, and resources are protected from unauthorized viewing and other access. Integrity means that the data is protected from unauthorized changes to ensure that is reliable and correct. Availability means that authorized users have access to the systems and the resources they need. Okay? So, I think that's it for today. Thank you, everyone, and see you next time, next meeting.